If you will permit me, I'd like to start with a brief announcement concerning COVID-19 vaccinations. I have been in contact with a member of the health authorities to arrange for vaccinations to be made at our church as early as April. And I'm hoping that we will be successful in this attempt to do so. I, along with Kevin Byrne and Susan Venable, have been working on this effort to make sure that we could become a center for distribution for the vaccines. And for those of you who have not as yet been vaccinated, I am praying and hoping that you will take advantage of this opportunity when it is provided. And please pray for our success in making sure this will happen at Allen Chapel A.M.E. Church at 936 Sudbury Street here in the city of Staunton. It's not just for our members that I would want to be a distribution center, but for the environing neighborhood, for all of the people who live near us and around us to be able to access vaccinations that have hitherto been inaccessible to them. For whatever reason, that it might be easier for them to come and receive the vaccination. The reason why I'm making this announcement today is because this is now almost, we're about 2 weeks shy of being out of our service, out of our congregation assembling together for worship and for praise for nearly a year, right? And in 2 weeks' time, it will have been a complete year. I went to check to see when I posted the first of these sermons, and it was March, I believe, the 22nd of March last year that I posted one of the first of these sermons. There may have been one prior to that, but here we are in the first Sunday of March, and we have yet to reassemble in our church. The sooner all of us are vaccinated, the sooner we can return. And so I'm praying that you will take full advantage of the opportunity when it is available. All right, so this is the third Sunday in Lent, and contrary to my usual practice, I have decided to preach on the song today. Not from the gospel, but on the song. And for those of you who have the bulletin, you already know that what is appointed for us to read is that telling of the story by John where Jesus enters the temple and throws over the tables of the money changers, chases out all of the animals from the temple, gets himself a corded whip and starts whipping people out of the temple. And as much as I love that story and as much as I would want to preach it on any other occasion, today there's something about the song that just gets to me. And so for the third Sunday in Lent, this is the psalm which is assigned for our reading. It's Psalm 19. Please won't you attend to the psalm. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night declares knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Yet their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In the heavens, he has set a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom from his wedding canopy, and like a strong man runs his course with joy. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuit to the end of them, and nothing is hid from its heat. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The decrees of the Lord are sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The ordinances of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired are they than gold, even much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey, and drippings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is your servant warned. In keeping them there is great reward. But who can detect their errors? Clear me from hidden faults. Keep back your servant also from the insolent. Do not let them have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless and innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Psalm 19. The gravity of love. I have adopted a practice through long habit of awaiting the first appearance of starlight in the evening sky. Because nightfall came so early during the winter months, I bundled myself to stand in front of my front yard to view the darkening sky in the hour between 6 and 7. I stare fixedly as Sirius begins to send its herald of brilliant white light. I have learned to affix its position in the sky by looking for the string of 3 stars that always appear in a straight line equidistant one from the next. The first of these to the left points in the direction of Sirius, which will appear a little lower than my pearls. I named the 3 shining stars my pearls before I learned their proper name the astronomers gave them. I believe there are poets and mystic among the astronomers. They call that group of 3 stars Orion's belt, which belongs to the larger constellation of stars that make up Orion the hunter, the mythic giant son of Poseidon, the god of the surging seas. These stars always display their beauties in the southern sky, and I marvel to watch them throughout the night as they move from east to west. When I turn in a northern direction and move toward my driveway so that my gaze is unobstructed by the roof of my house, I'm able to view the whole length of the Big Dipper as it begins its gradual ascent into the night. I am moved nearly to tears by its majestic sweep along my purple canopy. My nose burns from awe and my skin pimples and shivers. I sense the stars silently summon me each night, and I, with studied obedience and swelling rapture, answer the call. Each morning, I rise before rose-fingered dawn has touched the sky to watch the last remnant of night take its flight. The moon these past few days has begun to wane again, but its shine of reflected sunlight glows just the same even after the morning blues ascend the heights. Suddenly, a shout of blinding, brilliant light makes its inaudible declaration of supremacy over the day. It announces itself in extravagant pomp, and there on the eastern horizon, the magnitude of its glare is undeniable, unshakable, and ever steadfast. Is there any wonder that I love Psalm 19 as I do? Its music of cosmic splendor is sublime, but it has the great advantage of also being true. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. The deeper truth is that none of this is said. It is not spoken in a language of speech or words, but the psalmist is astute to acknowledge that the voice of cosmic order goes out through all the earth and even to the uttermost ends of the world. It is a natural order beyond human design and unbending to human desire. It is a pattern, discernible, but unalterable. We did not craft the Leviathan nor its spout, and we did not carve the back of the crocodile. We did not fashion the porpoise to race along the eddies and the waves at sea, and we could not imagine the winged flight of the eagle from so lofty a perch as the craggy, windswept mountaintops. The hand at work in all of these we have inferred without ever seeing. We have surmised its incalculable power. We are transfixed by its intent and astonished in its purpose. Beauty has been birthed for its own sake. The panorama of earthly glories requires space. The space that defines the race of light from distant galaxies we have yet to see. The space that marks that unprobed depth of ocean cleft in the unbridled power of hurricanes. Let us heap the sands of the desert places and measure them out in spoons and baskets. Then let us declare the number of grains, their thousands in a thimble, and their millions by the bottle. There is no end to the glory of God's infinite creation, its mind-dazzling intrigue of mathematical precision and its tantalizing orchestration of musical harmonies and melodies. Look again into the unprobed distance between the stars. There be a tuning you cannot hear, but the finger of God plucks the invisible strings tautly stretched betwixt the midnight stars to sing us a lullaby more felt than heard. This is the rapture our forefathers and foremothers tried to capture in Genesis and in Psalms. They tried again in the coalescence of cosmic law with moral law when they recounted the story of the Exodus. God reminded the children of Israel, and God reminds us too, that God made all things, and that whatsoever is God brought forth in the heavens, the earth, and the seas, prodigious with life, promiscuous in flourishing. One reason we may find the structure of Psalm 19 so befuddling is because it turns from its rhapsody on the expanse of cosmic glories to the law internal to the human spirit. So soon as the sun receives its just deserts in praise, the psalmist turns to the power of God's love to revive the human soul. This, my friends, is a different order of law. This is not the law of luminosity that dim Betelgeuse's orange glow, or the law of gravity that keeps the dance of the earth and the moon moving in a counterclockwise direction. The law here concerns the works of justice and righteousness, which neither stars nor spiders may ever keep. This is not the law governing the space of distance, but the law in time that governs action, what we did in the past, what we do now, and whatsoever we may decide to do when tomorrow dawns. This is that law that governs the human heart and how it pants for either gold or glory, but never both. This is the law that governs the spirit and how it aspires for what it cannot be, but yearns for what it may yet become. The psalmist assures us that our reward for keeping God's ordinances is wisdom, the enlightening of our eyes and the rejoicing of our hearts. So in the 19th Psalm, cosmic order is paired with moral order, that law that engenders freedom and provides the foundation for liberty. This is why we have the reading appointed this day from Exodus. In their sojourn through the wilderness, the Hebrews corrupted themselves and became wild with idolatry. They were incapable of exercising their freedom because they recognized no law by which their freedom could be nourished and cultivated. The deep truth of our scriptures today is that freedom is accessible to us only in the context of just laws. The absence of law is chaos, the very opposite of cosmos. But then what does this mean, that freedom is free only if it may be commanded to be obedient? First, the God of the universe shaped it according to God's own liking. God's poetry made freedom live and breathe, and God said that it was good. God affirmed it, our freedom, but more than that, so very much more than that, God loved what God had made. He loves us as a free creature. When God brought the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob out of the land of slavery in Egypt, God did so because God despised the cruelty of slavery. God had never intended that human beings would ever be slaves to any master, but that they would be free to choose what is right, what is just, what is good. In short, to choose God. God ordained that this should be the law of their hearts, and that meant that their hearts would follow that law for which the heart is the shepherd. To love God with all one's might, with all one's mind, and with all one's heart. Keeping the law grows the heart so that it becomes more of what it was created to be, the gardener in the garden of the good. We are here to foster love, to multiply its power, and to feed its hunger and thirst for righteousness sake. Love on this wise loves the creation because the creation is God's doing. I marvel at the night sky and rejoice in the telescope I received on Christmas, the better to behold the symphony of starlight against a dark night. Love, commanded to love, will delight in the welfare of the saint and even more the sinner, to bring the sinner round again to the sweetness of God's law. The law of love is far surpassing the sweetness of honey and the drippings of the honeycomb. Love so empowered will ring in a new dawn for freedom when all God's children will sing, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. These are the words, of course, that you recognize, with which Martin Luther King concluded his monumental speech on the Mall when he shared with the nation and the world his dream of love triumphant over the sin of racial discord. How many sins did King see to shatter the commandments of God? Upon close inspection, we may discover that all of them had been violated, and even now are being violated. I see false witness against the Black Lives Matter movement, the theft of privilege over the dispossessed, the coveting of political power in the suppression of the vote for Black and brown people, the murder of police officers in the pursuit of their duty to protect the nation's capital, the dishonor of the aged when their proper care is neglected. But more than all of this, I see the idolatry of money and earthly authority over and before the sovereign God of the universe. I think it's time my neighbors should join me to watch the comets race, to look for the faint glow of some far-flung galaxy as the stars assemble each night in a congregation of constellations for praise and worship. Stars so bright call to the law within thee and in me. It is that law of love that brings us home again from our walk on the wild side of sin. I believe that grand old philosopher named for Emmanuel and born of Prussian soil, the wise Kant must have grasped the gravity of Psalm 19 so very well. In his treatise on the moral law, he wrote these immortal words, which echo the Psalm's lyrical ode of praise to gravity and to love. Two things: fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe, the oftener and more steadily we reflect on them, the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. Amen.